And but
Sorry about
it's
that.
really it's okay. It's really interesting because some of the stuff that I wrote, and I kind of found this stuff out after I wrote and published the book, but there's a lot of common thought that seemed to coincide with the things that I wrote. And I'm like, how did I know that? What did I tap into? Like it was just really interesting. And my relationship with Lilith is really interesting. Growing up, I was a Christian Baptist, and I was really devout for a long time, but I think that devotion was more out of like being brought up in it and out of
Mhm.
fear of what would happen if I didn't believe in that. But from the time I was a teenager until I was about 22, I'd been kind of dipping my toes in other belief systems because growing up, I had, I guess you can call them supernatural experiences, but I had experiences that never seemed to fall in line with what other people around me believed. So I never quite felt like I fit into that box of Christianity, no matter how hard I tried. And so at about 21, 22 is kind of when I started to get more into witchcraft and paganism. And I considered myself an eclectic, but around 24, I went through a really traumatic experience.
Mhm.
I had broken up with a longtime abusive boyfriend, and after I left, they started like stalking me and doing things, and they had gotten a hold of me at one point wanting to apologize for the way they treated me, but and I had a bad feeling about it, but I let them come talk to me anyway. And in the course of that conversation, I was sexually assaulted, and I found out not long after that I had become pregnant from that incident. And it was really interesting because before before I found out about the pregnancy, and there was just stuff going on around me like that felt kind of like, I guess, supernatural in a sense, but I didn't know where it was coming from. But it didn't feel like God, it felt like something else. And I remember specifically this thing that happened that I think now was kind of trying to tip me off that something big had occurred and my life was about to change. I had just moved into this house, and I was in the living room, and then all of a sudden this bat just flew down in front of my face. And I remember running into my room because it scared me. My landlord tried to catch it, but he couldn't, and it eventually escaped the house. But I remember talking to some people in my pagan community about it and kind of discovering what that could kind of mean as far as like a message. And I think when I look back on it, I think that's when Lilith kind of first entered my life, but I had no idea who it was, who she was. I just knew something was going on. I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I can't exactly pinpoint the exact moment I kind of figured it out, but just over time, I kind of figured out where that connection was coming from. And it's been a really interesting relationship because it's not like anything that I'm used to. Like when you're a Christian, God is this always present being kind of dictating what you do, and you have to live a certain way, and there's all this pressure. My relationship with Lilith isn't like that at all. She doesn't demand that I do anything for her. She doesn't demand that I fall down and worship her. It's not like that at all. But she has maintained a steady presence in my life. She doesn't like disrupt my life, but whenever there's something that I need to be aware of, or whenever I need her in some way, whether I know it or not, she kind of checks in with me, and she's there. And it's nice because I don't think I've ever had like a relationship with deity where there wasn't some sort of expectation of me other than just personal growth. And I had gotten into I had learned about the Satanic Temple a few years back, and I had kind of gotten into that, and I'd gotten into like the concept of Satanism. And my interpretation of Satanism is it's like, instead of externalizing your own power and putting it into something else like a deity or something like that, the point of Satanism is to internalize your power and realize that you yourself are your own divine being. And I feel like that concept is directly in line with Lilith and a lot of the ways that she plays a part in my life. Um, and it's funny because a lot of the information that's out there about Lilith doesn't really line up with my personal experience. Like a lot of historical information will say that, you know, she's a demon and she kills newborn babies and she attacks pregnant women and, you know, things like that. And that's not been my experience. If anything, with both of my pregnancies and my experience as a mother, she's protected me and she's protected my children. And and it's really nice because like I said, she doesn't demand anything of me. She just, it's like she wants me to be the best version of myself, and she wants me to realize that the power doesn't lie with her or anybody else. It lies within me. And she's helped me a lot, especially in situations where like I was in like bad situations, like abusive situations. Like for example, she'd kind of like gone a little bit dormant for a while when I was with my ex-husband. And then there was one point around the time this dream and all that stuff happened, like there was some stuff going on in my marriage that was not healthy. And looking back on it, I really feel like she was trying to send me things to kind of coax me into picking myself back up and realizing that I didn't have to put up with that stuff. And that as scary as it was going to be and as hard as it was going to be, I needed to do what I needed to do, not only for me, but for my kids. And I remember part of that weird writing flow that I had is when I came up with that invocation. And that has inspired me so much. I have it on a giant tapestry in my living room so that I'm always looking at it. And I remember my marriage imploded one night when my ex-husband got really violent, and me and my children at that point became the victims of domestic violence. And I remember that night after the incident happened and he had went to bed, I looked over at the wall and I saw that invocation, and something inside me was like, you know what you have to do. So the next morning, I called a friend while he was at work. I got as much as I could for me and my kids, and she drove away with us, and I didn't say a word, nothing. I just left because I knew if I waited for him, I knew if I said something, it was going to make it even harder. And, you know, at the time too, my family was telling me to just stay for a little while and lay low. But it's like this just inner voice was telling me, like, you have to do this, you have to do this, and you can do this. And I'm not going to lie, it's been difficult ever since because I'm disabled with two children. And that person was not only my husband at the time, but he was my caregiver. He did a lot of things to ease some of the burden on my life. And it's been difficult to get what I need, you know, from the government and things like that in order to be more self-sustaining. But I still know, even with all that struggle, it was worth it. And she's still with me even now. I had to make a very difficult decision recently, and I had been really, really depressed. I didn't know what to do. And I remember, and this was the day that your review came out. I didn't know about it at the time, but I remember thinking, like, and I had periodically had this thought over the last year. I remember thinking like, I don't know why Lilith picked me because I'm shameful. Like I have to rely on other people for help because I'm disabled and I feel so ashamed for the feelings that I'm having. And I remember that day in particular, I was like, just like, I just wish I felt like you were here. I don't know what to do. Like, and I just feel so abandoned and lost. And then later that day, I just happened to be scrolling through Facebook and I saw your review of my book. And I just immediately took that as a sign of her being like, I'm still here. And I just immediately like felt this peace that the decision that was going to be difficult that I had to make, it was the right decision and everything was going to be okay. And it's just like that. She's not like this omnipresent deity that's trying to dictate my life, but it's like she knows that I'm like vulnerable and in a bad spot and I've been disenfranchised a lot, and she's just trying to help pick me back up, and it's no matter how many times I feel like I've failed, whether it's I've failed the deity that I'm supposed to embody, or if I failed myself, I'm a lot harsher on myself than she is on me. And she shows me that time and time again, whether it's, you know, the bat flying in my face in front of my living room, or there's a random vulture outside my house for some reason. And like, or like, all the neighborhood cats for some reason are starting to flock towards my house. And just like weird things like that. I know, like, objectively, it probably sounds really weird. I don't know if it sounds weird to you guys, but I feel like saying it out loud, it sounds kind of like unhinged, but my experience is my experience. And, um, like, it just makes me feel like no matter what happens, no matter how many times I fall, no matter how many times I don't feel like a goddess or I don't feel powerful, she's going to be there when she needs to be there. Other than that, it's like, it's totally on me what I do and how I choose to go about it. And like, and it's nice because like even in the pagan community with people that, the ones that deity worship, there's like everybody feels like there's this expectation that you have to have an altar, you have to do offerings, you have to do spell work, you have to do all of these things. And to be honest, like I'm mentally ill. I have really bad PTSD and depression, and sometimes I just can't. And I beat myself up about that stuff. But then it's like she always comes in to remind me, like, I don't expect any of that from you. I'm just trying to get you to realize who you are. And I'll keep doing that for as long as it takes. And it's been a really hard experience because I feel like the last year, I feel like she's kind of trying to like really push me to do some like serious shadow work, and that stuff is exhausting and I keep like putting it off, and she's just like, you need to do this stuff and you're going to keep getting in situations until you do this stuff. And things like that. Or like another thing I think she's kind of calling me towards, which, and this scares me because of how complex it is, but Kabbalah. I think she's pushing me towards that, and it is so complex it scares the crap out of me, so I've been shying away from it. But I'm incidentally, uh I met, in the midst of going through all this in almost 2 years now, I met a guy who happens to be very Jewish, like a humanistic Jew, and we're married now. And I just think that's really funny that that's the person that I connected with, and he knows about, Kabbalah and all that stuff. And I was just like, I think that's really funny that we somehow, me and you specifically, were brought together around the time that like all of this stuff was kind of being thrown in my face. Like it's just it's hard to it's hard to articulate to other people, but it's like it's just really funny to me. Like I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like she's there, but it's not like an overbearing. It's not like a I don't want you to be who you are kind of presence. And it's really nice because like I can, I can choose to acknowledge her as a real deity, or I can choose to acknowledge her as an archetype and use that to kind of mold who I want to be. Like I don't I everything is my choice, and I've never had that experience as a religious person ever. And it's just been a really great thing for my life. It's been a really hard thing because I don't know if other people that follow Lilith, especially women, feel this way, but it often feels like I have this like huge thing that I have to live up to, and it can be like overwhelming. But I think most of that pressure is being self-inflicted. I don't think she wants me to feel that way. Um, but yeah, my relationship with Lilith has been very interesting and very personal. And it's nice to be able to recognize that everybody's relationship with her is different, and that's totally okay. And it doesn't make my experience or anyone else's experience any less valid. Like, I don't have to follow a prescription. It's just, it's really awesome. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm very, very passionate about who Lilith is to me. And whenever people can relate to my experience, that just makes me really excited. Um,
I I want to say, Luna, thank you so much for sharing your story and being open. Um,
yeah,
and I want to tell you it's beautiful, even though I know you went through tough stuff. I don't want to
yeah.
I don't want to diminish it was tough, but it's also beautiful because you persevered through so much. Um,
And
and
I'm still having to do it, but
right.
I think that's what Lilith does when people say that Lilith chooses you. That has entirely been my experience because she was in my life before I even knew who she was. And it's like, I don't want to say it was, I had no choice but to follow her, but it was just so compelling. Like, um, and it's been a really great thing for me. And like, I, I got that moon tattoo on my head just to remind me, especially when I'm feeling down, like I really am a daughter of Lilith. And that's not going to change. Just like the tattoo is not going away, that's not going away either.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I have her name tattooed in Hebrew on my arm. And I did that during a really tough time where I wanted to be like, I'm committed, you know. I mean, I was already, but it was a sign to me. I had to do it. Really beautiful how you describe how everybody's relationship is different because I agree completely. And I agree also that however you practice is your practice and your journey with her. No one can tell you what that looks like. So
Mhm.
don't feel guilty about anything. And I know it's hard, easy to say that,
Yeah.
but don't feel guilty about anything you're doing or not doing. You're doing what you need to do, not what somebody else needs to do. And I really do think she comes to those of us who have been marginalized, have been through hard things. She comes to us and wants us to be us. Um, I don't know what it is, but everybody I talk to has been through something. You know, I think everybody's been through something, but Lilith
Well, to be
followers,
honest, like I think what it is just my experience working with her. She's not harsh or hard or anything, but I will say, in my opinion, and I don't know if anyone else agrees with me, but she's not for the weak. She really isn't. Not, I don't think just anybody can deal with having that presence in their life. It's not easy, but it's not hard like it is like living up to the standards of the Bible or something like that. But it's still hard, but it's worth it.
totally agree. So, I don't know if you have more to say, but also want to make sure people, if they have questions, to jump in. I know Richard's chomping at the bit to ask questions. So
I can see that.
he
I
always asks
will.
questions.
I'll let everyone else ask questions first because I kind of just wanted to make some statements and then ask a few questions in regards to um, other things with your writing, your inspirations, and your soul journey. So I'll let everybody else ask questions first.
Hi, I'm Kazaya. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I have yet to be able to read your book, but I'm definitely going to be getting it this week, so I'm looking forward to having that to read.
Like I said,
Um,
there's grammar issues, but I don't think it's so bad that it'll impair the story. At least I hope not.
yeah, no, absolutely not. Um, and I guess I would just say I have it's I love being able to hear other people's experiences, like what you have talked about, living as a trans woman, and some of the things that I've had experiences with my life, especially things that I haven't been able to heal, past traumas and such. I found that, her coming into my life was um, just very eye-opening. Like you said, she's not for the weak. I feel for myself, it was very much I have to prepare myself for something like that because it's a lot, it's for me, it was working within my shadow and within the trauma spots for me. And so, but overall, just wanted to say thank you, for sharing your story and looking forward to reading it.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Anything you want to know, I'll answer it. I'm an open book.
Me too. That seems to be another part of Lilith's stuff. Once you've worked with her a while, I guess she's looked at so much, you're like, whatever. I'll tell anybody.
She kind of like she definitely can see through you. You can't bullshit her. Like
No. And also I did want to mention if somebody feels a little shy going on camera or asking verbally, you can ask in chat as well.
yeah,
But
and I don't know how easily I can check the chat. So if like Richard or Mark, if you could keep an eye on the chat for me and just relay the questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Because
I've been keeping an eye open for any messages coming across the board, and nothing surfaced yet.
I
well,
really appreciate you letting me come on here and share my experience with Lilith because to be honest, like one on one with somebody, especially somebody that um doesn't like from a different faith or whatever, or even agnostic, it's been so hard to articulate. And I feel like here, this is probably the first time I felt like I could articulate it well. But I think it's also, there's something to be said about being in a room with like-minded individuals. It just makes it
mhm.
easier. And the fact that all of you have had your experiences with her as well, I feel like you guys can fill in the gaps where I'm having trouble finding the words.
But you've done a great job of articulating it from my perspective. So thank you. Richard, I don't know if you want to jump in, and then if somebody has a question, they can type it in or afterward.
That this is deeply moving. Personally knowing you and hearing about your stories unfolding and who you become as a person, and celebrating the facts of you being a mother in the world, and having divine inspiration. To me, from what I've heard from what you shared to me, this has been an adventure. It's your saga. It's your soul that you're expressing to the world through an archetype that's manifesting in your consciousness and projecting into other people's reality. And I think that it's deeply moving. It's soul grabbing. You know, some of the things that I know life has presented, you know, to you on your journey of inner shadow work, and you know, discovering how you can relay a message or a story. And this is such a sacred thing, to be able to share to a younger generation, that they can have stories to tell, and that it manifesto in a way that can hopefully touch their heart or their mind, to be inspired, to be moved. And I want to thank you for taking time to share something so personal, that is meaningful to you, and hopefully it touches other people in a positive way, that they can gain positive insight from your divine inspirations, and these things that you have manifested in your reality from this connection, that they can find a connection to discover for themselves what they want, not as a vice, but as an opportunity, to where they can tell their stories. So that's what I wanted to say. As far as regards to the things you've shared and things I've seen. So what is in the future? What more books can we see surface? What more sagas will you tell? What, you know, what more do you plan to give to the world in relations to Lilith?
As far as Lilith, I don't have a new book for that in the works yet. I'm wanting to, like I said, kind of revise what I've already written and republish it, especially, you know, take my previous married name out of the equation. I would like to republish it, a more refined version. I know my current husband and I have talked about we've had some ideas for some fictional books that aren't related to the realm of more like science fiction stuff. So we've talked about stuff like that. And I know when I was going through my divorce, especially in the beginning, I had started writing a lot of poetry. So I've been thinking maybe publishing a poetry book of that experience for me, but through my poems. Um, I'm sure, like, at some point, more inspiration for Lilith will come, but I'm not going to try to push anything or rush anything because just like that first book, it just came so naturally. And I, after having that experience, I wouldn't want to like force anything. You know what I mean?
Hmm. There was a message here that says, "Is there a known connection between the red dragon and Lilith?"
Um, I haven't read anything to that context and I haven't had that experience, but I don't feel like I can be the one to say that there is or there isn't. I think Lilith too kind of speaks to each of her children in a way that they can interpret and understand. For me, it's when it comes to animals, for me it's like a lot of, you know, nighttime creatures or like scary things like spiders and snakes and vultures, which around here we have turkey vultures, but it's kind of weird to see them out in front of your house. You know what I mean? Like or like there was one particular vulture, this is a few years ago. It wasn't a turkey vulture, and I'm not aware of any other ones in the area, but I remember being in the middle of the road and we had to like stop the car and just for me it's stuff like that. It's powerful birds and and creatures that would normally like I guess for me strike fear, but having a sense of peace in their presence instead of a fearful one. um but I think, like I said before, I think each relationship is valid and it's personal, it's individual. So I don't really feel like I can speak to whether she has a connection with a red dragon or not. if you're someone that feels that she does, if that speaks to you, then I would say that that's valid.
Yeah, and I did want to ask David, were you referring to the Welsh red dragon or a different um idea of a red dragon?
I imagined like Chinese, but
There is also the Welsh red dragon. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was considering the Welsh red dragon.
Yeah, great question. And I am mostly Welsh and did
Very good.
study.
me
I did
too.
really wow. Maybe there's a connection there with Lilith. Um, but I did study with a Welsh witchcraft group for a while. One of the many things I studied with, and in their view, the red dragon symbolizes much like the fire serpent of Kundalini, which means it would be related to Lilith, not directly in the mythology, but an idea of, because she's all about transformation, about raising that energy within oneself. So tangential relationship, absolutely.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
You connected a dot.
Excellent. I'm very happy to hear that you're thinking about writing fiction, also because I love fiction as well as spiritual stuff,
Oh,
and
I've always
love it.
been into fiction. When I was a kid, I used to write fictional stories all the
Oh,
time, kind of
cool.
more as an escape. But unfortunately, I don't really have a lot of those writings. But I know that, like I said, I know at some point there will be another book. Whether or not it's related to Lilith, I don't know. But
Yeah, and I know for me, my first book was fairly easy, because I had a similar experience to you where I had dreams and I'm just writing what comes for parts of it. I did a little research on the front part, but like the myth was just her speaking. Um, and
yeah,
it
I didn't do any research. I just like
started writing, right?
I just wrote, and it's weird because like some of what I wrote, especially in that creation story, and I think one of the last ones about the children of Lilith, like I've listened to what some people have like posted or said on like TikToks or whatever. And it's like I was like, that's so weird because that totally sounds like something that's in my book, but
Mhm.
the likelihood that they also read my book, at least to me, was felt pretty slim. So it's like it's almost like there's this shared consciousness. You know
Mm,
what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I do know when you start to think about a second book or a third book or whatever, it is hard because that I know for me that first one like yours was so just directed. So um I'd encourage you to just keep writing because you've done great. And whether it's fiction, nonfiction, Lilith, something else, I'll be picking it up and reading it. So
Thank you so much. Like that means a lot because like I knew about your books, and I obviously knew about your channel before ever even like knowing you at all on a personal level. You were just like, I was wanting to learn more about Lilith from what other people were saying, and I just really liked your channel. It felt really informative,
mm,
especially your stuff tying it into like Kabbalah and all that. Um so it's really cool that we're here now and we're talking, and
yeah.
you've read my book. Like I never thought that, and it's funny because the first time I realized we had a mutual connection, which is Richard, I was actually watching some of the videos on your channel, and it was just kind of cycling through, and then this video came on, and I'm kind of zoned out a little bit on my phone, and then I hear Richard's voice, and I look up and I see his face, and I was like, is that Richard? It's like, what?
Richard
There's
knows
kind of
so many people. It's
it's kind
amazing.
of small world, like,
It is. It is.
yeah.
Well, and I feel like the Lilith world, there's such a connection between us that work with her and are connected to her that I just find people all over the place that just pop up from some weird connection.
Since I've been following her, that's been happening to me too, especially since I've been more vocal about it in the book and all that. Like that's been my experience as well. And it's kind of wild, really. Like, someone who I'm friends with on Facebook and I was friends with before I joined this Facebook group, she's actually an admin in that group. And it's just like, it's just really interesting. It's really, really interesting.
It is. It is.
Very interesting with the synchronicities, and
Yeah.
when people have real connection with deity, with spirits, with whatever you identify. When they have linking parallels, it's almost like a spiritual morphic resonance. It's the best way that I can describe it, without getting into specific models of structured practice. It's interesting that we all got to meet here, and I just want to let you know I appreciate your time, and I'm glad for everybody that has come here today, and hopefully you take something from this, and moving forward, hopefully you have a divine connection to what you work with, and you'll be able to progress further.
And yeah, I want to say thank you so much for coming and speaking. Um, it means a lot to me to have people come on that, have experience, and I love hearing somebody else's, even though I feel like I know you a little bit from reading the book. It's just
Yeah.
so cool to hear. Um, just so thank you. Thank you so much. And you're welcome anytime if you have something else to talk about too, or when you write another book, feel free to come on and but if you have other ideas, absolutely anytime.
Yeah, and I would love to be like more involved with like Circle of the Dark Mother stuff. I think that'd be really cool. Like, um, I like paganism a lot, and I really like the left hand path. But the thing that's been the most difficult for me, not limited to Lilith, but just paganism in general, is it can be really hard to find like a steady, solid sense of community. And I think I have been looking for that ever since I left Christianity. And there are moments when I like solitude and being solitary, but there's so much good that can come from uh, interaction with others and working with others and that sense of community. So I would absolutely love to be more involved.
You're absolutely welcome, and I can shoot you a link to, well, I can even just sign you up for our newsletter so you see what's going there. You can email me anytime or message me on Facebook too. And definitely you're already a sister in Lilith, so you're one of us. Absolutely.
And if you find things within the material that you're interested in exploring, I can help assist you with that as well as Mark.
Mhm.
So if you need any guidance, insight, or just want to share your direct experiences, or just want a little nudge to looking into other things, then I'd be more than
Yeah.
glad to assist you in any way that you desire to do so.
I think the thing that I've been consistently called to the most, like I said, I was shying away from because it's so complex and like overwhelming, is Kabbalah and just like the nature of that and how that's used. And it's just on my own, it feels like too much to tackle. But I feel like if I had, supports and guidance, it might be something that's more attainable to understand.
It's like flexing a muscle. The more you use it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
unfortunately, one of the big things with Kabbalah that makes it tough is because most of the books are very Hebrew centric, which of
Yeah.
course it comes out of that, although its ancient origins are Mesopotamian. But there's so much Hebrew, and I'm not a good linguistic person. So I know when I started in Kabbalah, I was just like, I don't know any of these words.
Yeah. Well,
So
there's like English translations, but you don't know how good translations actually are because between languages it can be really hard to directly translate. But I guess lucky for me is my current husband, he speaks Hebrew and he can read Hebrew, so that'll be helpful, I think.
Very. I had no experience with Hebrew. I came from Christianity too. I was a youth pastor right before I came to Lilith officially. And Kabbalah is not super hard once you get the cadence of the sort of the imagery and you get past some of the Hebrew words. And um but if you have experience with Lilith, you have experience with paganism, you have experience with any kind of um, various spiritual traditions, it'll feel like you've come home to it. So you'll do great.
Yeah.
And you've got your husband, you've got Richard, you got me, you've got all the support. So we'll be there.
Yeah. Does anyone else have questions or anything they would like to share or say?
No pressure, of course.
Yeah, you don't have to if you don't want to.
So, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you directly to ask either a private question or learn more about what you do personally? To where, promoting, not only promoting your book, but to where they can gain a deeper insight to the ways that you can operate and figure out connections to Lilith from your side of the coin.
I would say if you have Facebook, I'm on Facebook. It's Luna Eversong. Um, should be pretty easy to find me because that last name, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that has it. Um, and also I can share my email. You can email me. I don't mind. I get all kinds of emails from random places anyway. Let me see if I can access the chat and I can just type that info in the chat real quick.
Sure.
Great.
And I did post, if you scroll through the chat a little bit, if anybody wanted to buy Luna's book via Amazon, there is a link there to get to it. And I don't think, Richard, we know what we're doing next month yet. Because if you do, I don't. So we probably need to talk about that at some point. We'll of course post it on Facebook. I'll post it on through our newsletter and other means for people to find out what we're doing.
Great. Yeah, I have a list of people I've been contacting to promote different topics. So that's been a on continual thing. So I was just setting something in stone for our monthly meetings, which is the first Sunday of the month at 6:30 to 7 p.m. So just throwing that out there for anybody interested in topics that they want to share a topic or anything particular and their field of interest or things that they work with or want to share with the world or invite someone to a good conversation. Definitely desiring that promotion. So either contact me or contact Mark. I could do some more classes on different subjects if people are interested. I have a list of things that I could put on the social chat for the Circle of the Dark Mother. Maybe if we did something like a vote for all the members, where we're including everybody in the subject matter, and then maybe the highest person gets selected, and then we go from that pick or that poll, or we could just have another live discussion where people share different things. So just open a conversation and see where it goes.
Yep, that's absolutely fine too. Um, and we probably will do a ritual again at some point. Um, I was sort of thinking, Richard, I know you won't be local, but I was thinking about trying to do this thing at Witch Lab again, in person and Zoom for those who can't be there. Um,
Great.
and when I do that, I always want to do something that is um, audience participation. So even if you're on Zoom, we'll give you something to do while you're on the ritual, like, you know, either lighting a candle or something to do so that you're not just watching, you're also a participant. So
Yeah, Witch Lab is a wonderful location. If people don't know about it, it's a metaphysical, spiritual shop. I know we have several friends that are there. Tiffany, the one that runs the business, is an incredible person. Everybody's extremely friendly there. You might want to check out their website. Go directly to Witch Lab. They're in Columbus, Ohio. So not very hard to find. Strongly suggest showing up down there and support the business.
absolutely. And we do publish our meetings through the Witch Lab Facebook channel too. So that's another place to find. So, Luna, anything else you'd like to say? I don't want to just cut off here. See if there's anything you wanted to say or any closing.
I just want to say thank you for inviting me to talk about my book and my experience with Lilith. And if anybody, that's in here, anybody that sees this wants to get in contact with me, my Facebook information is in the chat, and so is my email. I can answer questions, or we can just talk about our experiences. I'm open to talking about it with whoever, and I'm always seeking friendships with other followers of Lilith, because I really like to hear about other people's experiences, and just I like that camaraderie. So please don't feel shy about reaching out to me. I don't bite, I promise.
Thank you so much. I am so glad you came. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your book. Um, and I'll be in touch. Reach out to me. Thank you all for joining. If
I
anything
have
comes
I have
up,
one more thing to say that I
oh yeah,
forgot. I'm sorry.
please.
Anybody that does purchase my book, if you feel so inclined, I would really appreciate reviews, because I love hearing about what other people think about my book, and it just means a lot to me when I read those. So if you do purchase my book, if you would be so inclined to leave me a review, I would be forever grateful for that. It means a lot.
Absolutely. Good call. Um, thank you for mentioning that. And yeah, it does mean a lot to people. I don't know what's going on with my video. Sometimes I go all like I'm gone, like I've ghosted, but um,
It's the background filter that you have on it.
okay, it wasn't doing it before, but all of a sudden it's really bad. Um, but yeah, it really does mean a lot to authors to get, obviously more positive reviews are better. But to hear people have read it, just to know what they're thinking. Um, so good call. Okay, well, thank you all. We'll meet again next month. And if you have any questions, reach out to me, Richard. If you have questions for Luna, reach out to her. Again, the link to her book is on here. You can also just go um, to Amazon and look it up. And thank you all so much for being here and lending your energy to this talk.
Thank you. You all
Thank
have
you,
a good
Luna,
night.
so much. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.